We are very excited for our speaker today. She's been so gracious to come and talk with us today. Lindsey is a follower of Jesus, wife, mother of two, social media content creator, and entrepreneur. You can find her on TikTok and Instagram, sharing everything from comedic skits, songs, style, and motherhood moments. And she also started the clothing company, Get Your Pink Back, in November of 2022, which was created to help inspire and encourage anyone who is struggling, particularly mothers. She was born and raised in the South Hills area of Pittsburgh, and after living in Las Vegas for 11 years, decided it was time to come home in 2021. She's been attending the Bible Chapel since returning home, and she's very excited to be with us today. So welcome, Lindsey. Oh, you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, I can't forget to turn I'll turn it on. Can you hear me? Is that good? Okay. Oh. First of all, thank you all for having me. I love seeing the pink. That was really cool walking in, and I don't actually get to see a lot of people in person wearing Get Your Pink Back. It's happened like 2 times, and I was speechless. I really just screamed in their face. And one girl just went, and I was like, yes, okay, you get me. That was you at Starbucks. That was you. Oh my gosh. I had my kids in the car. I'm like, I should have gotten out and taken a picture with her. But then no one would be in the car with you. I remember that. Thank you. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I have gone back and forth and sideways, up and down about how to approach today. I'm not going to preach because I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. I don't have much to teach, but what I do have is my story. And I feel like my story was given to me so that I could share it with others. I do believe that appropriate vulnerability under the right circumstances can elicit other people to share their stories and hopefully help us deeper connect with one another. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share my story because I do want us to have a good time. So I'll keep it relaxed. We'll get a little deep, but we won't stay there very long. That's, right when you feel it's getting, I'll bring you back. We'll boomerang back. But I do think it's important to share kind of the good and the hard, kind of those ugly moments. Because, I am in social media, you don't see it all that often. And I think it's important that we share all of that, the whole picture. So Kristen and Stacy shared the verse that you all are looking at, Proverbs 27:19. Oh, picture. I did this keynote last night. I wasn't sure if I would have time, and it's not very good, but at least we have something up on the screen. We'll see if it works.
There's just music coming out.
Oh, is that what that is? Maybe I included, maybe I accidentally did that. I thought it was someone's baby toy, so I wasn't going to say anything. You can turn it off if you want. It's not even that good of a PowerPoint, so I'll keep going in the meantime, okay? So Proverbs 27:19, New International Version says, as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. And slightly different, I think I really like the New King James Version, as in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man. And at first I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fit this in? But honestly, what a perfect verse for someone to speak on who is in one of the most narcissistic industries out there, social media. And also when I was looking at my own life and how God's thumbprint was on that, it's actually perfect. So I kind of tried to weave that in along with my story, along with some lessons that I've learned. I think we'll have a good time, hopefully. And so speaking on social media, I would like to start there because as crazy as this sounds, that is actually where my journey with Jesus started, and inevitably he changed my life and my heart, and it is where Get Your Pink Back started. And you may be shocked to know, even though I'm in social media, I don't much like it. I think it can be a very negative space. It can breed comparison, which again is not on anybody else, it's only on us. I fell victim to it as well when I became a mother. But there is a lot of good that can come from that. There's a lot of good that can be done in that space. So when I started, I did not have that in mind. I started social media in 2016, and it was very superficial. I was posting about outfits and, oh yeah, there's another slide too. We don't have to use that, P.S. It doesn't. It's like not even, yeah. If that's where the music's coming from. Yeah, that's totally fine. Cool, okay, cool. So this is like the kind of content, although fun pants, you know. But it was very superficial. I didn't have much to say. I hadn't found my voice yet. I was, posting about outfits, hair. There's nothing wrong with it, but but cut to, yeah, so it was very superficial. But then I became a mother in 2018, and children have a way of showing you the most important things in life, and they can humble you real quick. So for years, I was working as a part-time at a TV station. It was 2 to 3 days a week, while still running my blog and Instagram full-time. And I was at home with my son as well, which is what I loved the most. And I really thought that if I could have this social media thing take off, then I could be at home with him all the time. Life would be rainbows and butterflies. It'd be super easy. I learned real quick that was not the case. So anyways, cut to 2020. I was at home with an 18-month-old, pregnant with my second. The world had shut down. I had it with social media because everything was superficial and it just felt wrong. I didn't like what I was seeing. I didn't like what I was doing. I told my husband I was going to quit, not just social media, but I was going to quit the TV station job. I was just going to quit it all. And he said, well, didn't you just download this TikTok thing and you're having fun with that, so why don't you just do whatever is making you, whatever you're enjoying, and just forget the rest. So that's what I started doing, and I stopped imitating what I was seeing and just started showing up as myself without lashes. I couldn't believe it. But I always had to have my heels, my lipstick, and my lashes. So I just started showing up how I was. And my daughter was born in October of 2020. She just turned 3 last Thursday. And things started to pick up with social media. I was meeting goals I set years ago, which I didn't even really want. Not that I didn't want to meet those goals, but they weren't as important to me anymore. I was content, I think, is what. I was just content with doing whatever I was doing at the time. So I started to meet all these goals I made years ago. I was meeting them in a matter of months. We were financially stable. I had a wonderful home, a loving husband, 2 healthy children. So as all of that progressed, I just felt like I was falling apart, and I could not figure it out. So this is where we're going to go a little deep, but we'll bring it back up, okay? So I call it the dark place, and I lived there for a while. It felt like a very, very long time. And if I can try to explain it, I had these brain boxes where I neatly filed things from my past that were too painful to remember, and I didn't want to deal with them. I've been doing them for years, so it was just kind of an easy thing for me to do. So I became an expert at filing hard things away and pretending everything was okay. I was truly a master of disguise. I was struggling and no one would know it. And I took a weird pride in that. It was bizarre. The truth was really something I did not want to dive into, which is probably because I also wanted to stop being a journalist, which is all about truth. I didn't want to deal with any of that anymore. I wanted to ignore any kind of truth. But turns out, brain bins, I don't know if you guys have filed them, if you have had them in your past, they have a shelf life, and they were bursting wide open after my daughter was born. So I finally had to just sit in it and deal with everything I had avoided for so long. Hindsight 2020, I really just relied on myself. I thought it was all up to me to make all of these things better, which I'll learn in time that that's not the case. I really thought, I am barely hanging on as it is. I've got these 2 babies in the middle of these unprecedented times, not just feeling isolated, but literally being mandated into isolation. And I'm a very extroverted person. My cup fills up when I'm around people and when I can hug people. And I realized I hadn't done that in basically a year. So I thought, well, what horrible timing, which is funny now because God's timing is always perfect, and in this case, it definitely was. So thank the Lord I'm not in charge. I would have messed everything up royally. And you know what? I could see how he was working in my life even at that point, and I wasn't even talking to him yet. I mean, I would say the nighttime prayer that I'd been saying since I was 13 years old. Like I said, now I lay me down to sleep. Pray the Lord my soul to keep. Please go bless my mom, dad, Mitch, Alex, Julie, John, Whitney. I would just say everything. Thank you so much. Blah, blah, blah. Please keep us healthy and happy. And if I fell asleep, I would wake up the next day and say it double time. Like I just needed to really get in good with God by just saying these words that there was no heart into them. I was just reciting words that I'd been reciting since I was 13 years old. And I really do, I know, I thought God definitely does not want to hear from me. All the times that I've messed up and continue to mess up, and I try to be perfect, and I just fall short all the time. So surely he does not want to hear from me. I felt like I was a burden to him. And so I just stopped talking to him altogether because I didn't want to bother him. I thought the Holy Spirit was someone like, I don't know if you guys have seen Hercules, you know Hermes, and he flies up, and I thought he'd be like, Lindsey has this, and God would say, no. We got people, with cancer over here, so I just thought everyone else's problems were much bigger than mine, and I shouldn't bother the big guy. Because I was also raised Christian, but I didn't understand it. I knew about Jesus, but never once cracked the Bible sitting one arm's length away from me in my nightstand. And I was slipping, and I had been slipping for a very long time. And like I said, I was only relying on myself. I didn't know that I could rely on anybody else. And I feel like our Lord left the 99 to save me. And my life was flipped upside down. That picture of the lamb, that's how I felt. And he started showing me things and opening my eyes, which when you go through that change, it's not always, it feels like, what? This is amazing. And then your eyes are open to so much more in the world. And it also becomes a little bit more difficult because you feel like you've been living here, but you're being pulled over here, if that makes sense to anybody. That's how I felt, at least. And I don't know if any of you have read Lisa TerKeurst's books. But in one of her books, It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, she discusses the concept of clay and dust. And scripture, Isaiah 64:8, yet you, Lord, are our Father. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand. And this concept had a big impact on my life because I really did feel like I was being crushed. You know when people say like you hit rock bottom? I felt like I hit rock bottom and then someone just took one of these and just like chopped me up into dust, and I didn't know what was going on. I felt broken. I was shattered. But it just so happens that dust seems to be one of God's favorite ingredients. It's used to make clay, and clay is much more easily molded than, say, glass or goo. You try to mold glass and it breaks. You try to mold goo, it slips through your fingers. God is the potter, we are the clay, and we are to be molded however he sees fit. And sometimes when you're super stubborn, okay, you need to be crushed to dust so he can form something new. Also, side note, because I thought this was really cool when I was looking up stuff, the first human was called Adam, obviously, and the Hebrew word for clay, Adam is the Hebrew word for clay, and the word human comes from the Latin word humus, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, which means earth or ground. So we are created from clay. We are always meant to be clay, and for me, I just really felt like my heart needed to be molded, and I was glass at that point, but he was at work. So I thought maybe this would be a good time to have a little time for a break, a little discussion. Hopefully I'm not boring you too much yet. So if you're comfortable, maybe you can share a time when you felt like you were broken down to be built back up again within your tables. I was going to have clay and hand it out, but life, I didn't get it. So you can pretend that you're molding clay. Get back up. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. But I encourage you to share these conversations like again. All right, so we'll pick it back up. I'm not asking you to share your dust moment or your hard time without sharing mine, so I will get to mine as well. So at this moment in my life, it's 2021. I was still trying to fill that hole, and I mentioned to my husband, again, we were living in Las Vegas at the time, I said, do you want to go to Lexington? That's where he was raised, where his childhood was. And he was like, nah. I'm like, all right, well, we got to get out of here, and I don't know. So I said, well, what about Pittsburgh? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, well, we can think about it. He goes, no, let's do it. I'm ready for a new job. I'm ready for a change. Let's go. And I was like, well, you do know it's like very cloudy all the time. Like Pittsburgh gray should be a Sherwin-Williams paint color, and we would all know exactly what. But he was, to my surprise, he was willing, he was ready, he was excited. So in 1 month, we packed up the house, moved the kids across the country. He was in the middle of finding a job, and thankfully I could do mine from home. So I was living in a different zip code. And I knew in my heart and my soul that it was the right move for us and for our family, but I was still just living in that dark place, and I wasn't sure what to do. I was still trying to fill that hole, still only relying on myself. I went to therapists, a psychiatrist, before I even went to God. I was like, let's just go to everybody else diagnosed with it. ADHD, PMDD, PPA, PPD, probably when undiagnosed. PTSD was thrown out on the table. I mean, they had everything for me. But really what it broke down to, and all these are very real things, I'm not diminishing that, but for me, I knew that it was something deeper, and it's what I call NT, no trust. No trust in myself, no trust in others, and no trust in our Lord and Savior. And I shared these hardships on social media, which was weird because I usually would not do things like that. I think I was just so broken down that I was grasping at anyone to help. And some people, remember I told you social media was kind of my start? And some people on social media DM'd me suggesting that I open my Bible and I start reading my Bible. And the audacity, I was livid. I told my husband, like, I remember brushing my teeth, like jabbing my gums. I'm like, they don't even know. I'm a Christian. How dare they? I know Jesus. Turns out they were right. So I found, I was at an airport actually coming back from my grand's funeral. In Selma, Alabama, and I found a devotional. It said, read through the Bible in 1 year. I'm like, I'll pick it up. I came home, I started reading through it in a year, and I do have to say, I was not reading, I think it's important to mention, I wasn't reading my Bible just to solidify the things that I had been taught when I was younger. And I wasn't questioning that God existed because we had our moment a few years back and he showed himself to me in an undeniable way, which I'm so grateful for. But I wanted to get into it and see what I believed, see what Jesus was all about. People can pick and choose scriptures and they can manipulate it to fit whatever their agenda is for this world. And I just wanted to read it in its entirety to see what I thought. So glad I did. First up, Genesis reads like a wild storyline from a reality show. It was like Real Housewives of Canaan, and I loved it. And I kept going, and I can't believe this is in the Bible. I can't believe we're talking about it. And the further and further I went, I started understanding his grace. I started understanding his love. I started understanding why Jesus had to die on the cross, why his blood needed to be shed on the land, and why there were so many. It felt like crazy in the best way possible. And it's like all I wanted to talk about. And then I found out that I could pray. He wanted to hear from me. Like I wasn't a burden to him at all. He wanted to hear from me. And I could pray at any time that I wanted to, which was great because I have a lot to say. And I started thinking about my own children. You know, how would I feel if they didn't want to come to me because they thought that they were a burden or that I had bigger problems of my own, so they didn't want to come to me and talk with me? What if they only said, thank you for this daily bread, like every once in a while? My heart would be broken. I want a relationship with them, and that helped me realize that God wants a relationship with all of us. And that's not everyone's journey, but that was my journey. Motherhood opened that door for me to understand the love that our Father has for us, and that's just, the love I have for my children is just a small bit of what he has for all of us, and our brains really can't wrap around it. And that's an amazing thing. So, you'd think Well, that's amazing. Done. No, we have not hit my dust moment. So let's talk about that. One day, I was at home alone. I was not doing well. And I forced myself to take a shower, which if you've ever been in that state of hopelessness, taking a shower is a very big struggle. Because you just don't feel like taking care of yourself. But I thought, oh, maybe it'll make me feel better. And then I got out, but didn't help me. So I looked in the mirror and I started saying this cheer that I had made up for my children to help them in difficult mornings, you know, when it's fussiness and whining and you're just trying to get out the door. We go, hey, are you ready? Are we caring? Yeah, are we kind? And they loved it. So, but I had never said it to myself. So I tried looking in the mirror and saying it to myself, and I couldn't do it. I just felt like a liar. I wanted to spit in the mirror, which I think it's interesting that we're talking about reflection, face to face, and heart reflects your soul. And it was, those voices were getting so loud, and I felt like I had been fighting them off for so long, and I was tired and I was broken down, so I just gave in. I really had started believing all those voices, which are lies. And it was, you know, you're worthless, you're no good, your family, your husband, your friends, everyone would be better off without you here. You're bad, you're just a bad person. And I cried on the bathroom floor, naked as the day I was born. I think at one point I was like, and I grabbed a towel to like just put it over me. But I'm boo-hoo, sobbing, like, I've been asking you, please take this away from me. I don't understand. I'm in your word. I've been sharing it on social media, and people were receptive, and I was having a conversation with them. It just was so encouraging. I'm like, I'm talking to you now. I'm in your word. I'm trying everything I possibly can. I went to these people. I thought, like, maybe if I tell people, that'll be good. That'll help me. That'll heal me. I said, please, please, please. So I'm sobbing. And then all of a sudden, this strange but very welcome peace. And now I understand, like, when people talk about that. And I got up on my knees, and it wasn't, you know, when you're done crying and you're like, okay, I'll get up. It wasn't. I was like, and then all of a sudden it stopped. And I got up on my knees, you know, when you're like just kind of like in it at that point. You're taking comfort in your own misery. And I got up on my knees, and I said, I don't know why this is happening, but I trust that you will use it for good. If not for my own good, then for someone else's. And I made sure to check myself. I was like, I also know you know my heart, so you know that I would like for this to go away for me personally, but if that's not your plan, I get it. But please have it do some good for someone else. I know you will. Please guide me in whatever way you see fit. Please use me. Please use me. I thought I'd probably battle this PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. By the way, it's like 1 to 2 weeks before your period, and it's an utter depression. It feels like someone's taking over your brain and your body. I did not feel like myself at all. I thought I'd deal with that for 10 years, maybe until menopause, maybe for the rest of my life. I wasn't sure. But if that's my burden, you know, I was ready to accept it. That was the last time I ever had feelings of hopelessness, of depression. That's the last time I ever wanted to spit at myself in the mirror. That's the last time I scared my husband because I was so low. That's the last time I planned my schedule around this horrible time in my life because I was so embarrassed to be out. I didn't want anybody to see me that way. I didn't want to be a burden to anybody else. And I didn't want them to feel like they were the reason that I was in such a poor place. So that was the last time. And if you've ever experienced feelings like that, you know that is nothing short of a miracle. I don't care what anybody says. Some people said, well, you healed yourself. If I could have, I would have. I tried for years. I did nothing. I didn't change my diet. I wasn't changing vitamins. I didn't change medication. He did that. So I shared it. And I shared that testimony with family and friends, and I shared it online as well. And 2 months later, after that miracle, Get Your Pink Back was born. So I can really quickly run over Get Your Pink Back, or we can have another discussion. What would you all like to do? Is it up to me? Do you want to how are we on time? I'm talking a lot. I can speed up Get Your Pink Back, and then we can do Q&A. Would that be cool? Okay, all right. So pre-miracle, I was invited to a trip in Nashville, a girl that I had never met before, but we had been talking online. And I was not going because, again, this was pre-miracle. So I was very much like, this is my bad brain week. I don't know how I'm going to do. And he encouraged me to go, so I went. And a girl named Natalia told me this story about flamingos. And it goes like this. Flamingos, both male and female, can sometimes lose their pink coloring while raising their young because so much of their food and their energy goes to their chicks. And I'm looking at her and I go, I feel like I've lost my pink. She goes, I know, but they get it back. And so we are sobbing. As you can, every emotion that I have usually comes with tears. It's pretty annoying. I'm learning how to deal with it. But if I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm excited, if I'm tired, it's just tears. So we're crying in the middle of this Nashville restaurant. I come home. I can't wait to share it with people because it resonated with me so much as a mother. And I just wanted to get my pink back. And I shared it on TikTok and Instagram, and people started to say, like, I want to get my pink back too. I'm like, we can do it. They said they wanted it on a t-shirt, they wanted it on a sweatshirt. I'm like, well, I made some t-shirts in my sorority before. I could probably get a t-shirt press. Before I get a t-shirt press, let me take a little poll on Instagram stories, and it was thousands. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I became paralyzed by fear because I didn't know, and all of a sudden I prayed on it because I had learned. He had molded my heart. He taught me to trust in him. So actually during that time, which would have normally been very stressful, and I would have been a worrywart, I just ended up praying that whole time. It was April to November 11, 2022. And people started showing up in my life, you all. All of a sudden, I had a graphic designer. I had someone who can connect me with a distributor. We had a distributor. We had bags. We had card inserts. We had someone doing the website. We got someone helping with Instagram. And people are like, hey, let's interview for your business. I'm like, you're not going to like what I have to say. God did it. I did none of that. And I'm so blessed. And I remember we launched 11/11/2022, and I announced it. Hey guys, we're live. I went to make PB&J sandwiches for my kids because they were fussy. I'm like, I'm sorry. 10 minutes later, I get a call from Hannah and Piper. They're screaming, and I can't even understand what they're saying because my kids are also like, we are hungry. I'm like, I don't know. They go, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? I said, no. What? I'm not in anything. And so they go, hang on. So they FaceTimed us, and they pulled up a screen, and it was a globe and a map of the world, and all these dots were lined up of everybody on the website trying to get your pink back t-shirt, and they were connecting. There was also this little thing, I should put it in the slide. There was this little thing going back and forth, and it was like connecting everybody, and it was the most beautiful thing I had seen, because by the way, I had decided no matter what happens with this, I'm going to be okay with it because of this journey. I understand God more. We have a relationship now, and this whole process ended up helping me get so much of my pink back. So for that, I will be grateful. If we sell 5 shirts, cool. Those 5 people have been touched by this message as I have, and it was incredible. And because of the success of that, we're able to hand out pink presents. And I don't know if you've heard of that. You can nominate yourself or someone else you know at getyourpinkback@gmail.com. There's also a slot in my Instagram profile, but people can write in nominating themselves or a loved one. Just people who need, the message alone has helped, hopefully, it's helped me, and I just really want it to help other people as well. But if we can help people financially too, then we need to do that. This has been a gift to me, and we need to continue that. It's a whole circle thing. It's a big old hoop. So to wrap it up really quickly, the message of Get Your Pink Back means something different for everyone, I think. Similar to how songs can mean something different to everyone. To me, it is a constant reminder of God's grace and how Jesus transformed my life. It represents my struggles and how they were used for good. It's a symbol of how Jesus brought me back to life, how he gave me my pink back, but in more ways than I could have ever imagined. The colors of our feathers reflected in the water will show us the color of our feathers. But the Lord changed my heart. He changed this stubborn, overly independent heart. He made it moldable, and he's still at work, and for that I'm forever grateful. As mothers, we can sometimes feel like we're losing ourselves after having children, and I think we need to lean into that. Change is good. Uncomfortable does not equal bad. Let yourself be crushed to dust and built up again. We are given more than we can handle sometimes because that's when we have no other choice but to trust in the Lord. He wants us to give it up to him. I'm still learning to trust him instead of myself. I'm a work in progress, but I have to say it's gotten easier. And I'm happy his plan for my life included the dark place, because maybe you've been there too. If you've been in that horrible hole, then you know how Jesus is the only light that will guide you out. And when you walk out, you realize you're holding a little light as well. Why do you think that is? Because he wants us to help others as well. We aren't shouting from above going, just climb up. We're going to take our light and we're going to hop back in that dark place to bring others out, because it's not so scary anymore. We know the dark and twisty corners well because we lived there. And while Jesus is the only one who can help anyone out, it sure doesn't hurt to have a friend there offering a little comfort and encouragement along the way. And I just want to thank you all so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure. I hope I didn't bore you too much.
I was just wondering what your husband's journey with the Lord was during all of this. Was he like lifting you up, or was he on the same, journey with you?
When I was in the dark place? So my husband, I told him I didn't want to go on any medication. He was supportive of what I was doing. I think he was trying to help, but didn't really know how to because neither one of us did. And then when I started reading my Bible, I was praying, and I joined a small group, and I was just having everybody. I swear, those ladies, their lips to God's ears, every single person I put on that sheet of paper and had them pray for, asked them to pray for. They are in their Bible. They have a closer relationship with God now. So he ended up having a closer relationship with Jesus. He started reading his Bible. And I think he was trying to help in every way possible, but he was scared. He didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And sadly, I'll be honest, the brunt of all of my muck, my yucky stuff, kind of went on him. So for him to be able to keep his peace and composure and know that this was not me, I'm just going through it right now, I think that's testament to him and his love and his gentleness and the grace that he gave me. So I'm grateful for him. He drives me crazy sometimes, but I'm grateful for him. How many t-shirts did we sell in the first launch?
The one with the globe where you said it was.
Yes. I know that, I can't remember the number. This sounds awful, but I can remember the profit. It's not about that. It's not about that. But we hit 1 million in 3 months. So, and I didn't know, I don't know this industry. So the girls were like, this is a pretty spectacular thing. And that's why I was like, okay, let's do some pink presents. My husband tempered my, I was like, we could build houses. We could build houses for you. He's like, all right, let's just, I'm not saying off the table, but. Are there any other questions? Yes. Oh, and I need to repeat the question back to you. Okay.
I'm curious how you're using this platform to share Jesus.
How am I using this platform to share Jesus? And I did have some written, and I think I skipped over it. When I started getting into my Bible and I was reading His Word and I was understanding the truth, and He molded my heart, I was sharing it on Instagram stories. I was, because I think the reason that I held back on this before was because I was nervous that I don't know enough. I don't know enough and I don't have all of the answers. But one thing that I could do was share my journey, because this is my journey and I can't mess that up too much. And if other people are in the same situation as me, which I realized a lot of them were, then maybe it would encourage them to start reading as well. So I shared on Instagram stories. I've shared on Instagram, on TikTok. I actually shared the testament to the PMDD going bye-bye, which was awesome. I shared that miracle on TikTok and Instagram, which was a two-parter. But what was holding me back was I don't know enough. And then when I realized I don't need to know everything and I don't need to make someone believe what I believe, all I need to do is share my story. I started doing that more, and the feeling, I still share skits and songs and style and motherhood moments, but I think the people that I'm reaching on social media are those who are curious and questioning. So yeah, I've just been sharing my journey, and I realized that I think for a while, sorry, this is a long-winded answer, but for a while, because the dark place was swooping in at the same time that everything was rising, I really felt like social media was a curse, like it was something evil, especially with how that I was feeling afterwards. But when I started sharing about Jesus and all that He's done for me, I realized that this is why. This is why I'm here. And I actually talked to my husband about making it just a full-blown like Jesus account, but because I feel like I'm reaching people who are curious, not necessarily like the believer, but the unbeliever, then I need to keep it the way that it is and insert it in those appropriate moments. And when I feel those moments, I really feel them and I feel compelled to share it. Like it needs to get out at that moment. And I'm telling the lights will flicker, my phone will die, it's bizarre. But I do believe that that's why I was given this platform, because I can reach more people with an app, more people in more places in an app than I can ever physically do. So that's why I do that.
Can you share
Yes.
a story of how you reached somebody?
Yes, I can. There are a few, but one was so this wouldn't be on social media, but I have had a lot of people say that they haven't prayed for a while, they stopped going to church, and they picked up a Bible. At one time I said, I went out and bought all the exact same Bibles that I got. It was the student NIV version. I got it on my confirmation when I was Presbyterian, and the same devotional they picked up at the airport. I bought them all up. And I said, because these two things like made me feel this way, so we couldn't waver from that. We have to give the same thing. So I said, hey, would you like, anyone who's interested, please let me know. Send me your address. And I received hundreds of addresses. So I was like, okay, there's something to this. Started sharing more. People said that they were praying more. And by the way, this is not me. This is all God. This is none of my doing. And I did a podcast, which I didn't want to do because I was like, oh, I'm so tired. But I did it. And so she was interviewing me, and I mentioned something. So one thing I'll like to do is they'll say, well, how did you get out of it? And I go, God is good. Or I go, praise Jesus, He's the only reason. Because you can do that, and it gets into people without going, can I please? You know, it's just a very lighthearted thing, and it opens it up. And so I kind of did that during the podcast, and then she asked me a little bit more if I would talk about that. I was like, this is my favorite thing to talk about, yes. So we did, and she said that she has been an atheist. And not a very good one, because she said that she is interested in reading her Bible and she was going to start praying. And I was just over the moon. I was so over the moon. I actually had my small group that night. I was like, guys, guess what? So yeah, just people. I think there are a lot of people curious, and I think 2020 was a very hard time for a lot of people, but God is using it for good, as he always does, and I think more people are coming to him, which is a great thing. And I'm so grateful to be even just a small part of their story. I get messages like that every day. So my answers are so long-winded. I'm sorry. I'm gonna shorten them. How do I come back when I see a negative comment? We were kind of just talking about that. I am very blessed. I don't know if I'm not seeing them or what's going on. I think I have a good system in place. So let's say I post a video and it goes viral. I don't go back to the comments. I love talking with people in the comments. It's fun. I get to sometimes people have really great tips, like stain removal and all how to cut onions without your tears. So I learn a lot. But then after it goes, like if something goes super viral, I don't really hop in there anymore, because I understand that some people are just going to be angry that your video is getting attention. That's all that it is. But I have gotten some pretty nasty comments, and it's really just, I don't know why it doesn't really bother me, because I know that they don't know me and they only see a short bit of my life. And it usually means that they're pretty upset. Also, sometimes it's just like on TikTok, it's user 1347666, and they could be a kid. They could just be a kid in middle school who has a hard home life, and so I never address it. I did actually go slip into their DMs, like, hey, I just want to let you know, I hope you're having a good day, and that stirred the pot. I thought I could help with kindness, and they didn't like it, and I was really just trying to whatever. So don't do that anymore. But I just ignore it, because that's kind of what they want. Don't give it the time of day. You can pick and choose what you spend your time thinking about. So I don't really think about it much.
And I have one more question.
Yes.
How do you come up with your content?
How do I come up with my content? Usually at 1 a.m. and I'm trying to fall asleep. So I had a little notepad. But my kids, really, I think they're so funny, and I love being around them. And actually, being around them helps me with work. So if I'm present with them and paying attention to all the things that they're saying, it's good for me as a mother. Well, it's also good for content creation. I love playing pretend with them. And the parodies, I don't know. I actually feel like a lot of people are just making up songs when they're with their kids, like at bath time. I don't know, so I was just doing that because it's just passing the time, and you need to think about something other than the whining. So, we'll change an Eminem song to something else. A Spice Girls song is about brushing your teeth or something, Anything else?
You have grown your Instagram following TikTok. Did you have a video that did that? Was there one video that went viral and it went from there, or was it kind of a slow growth?
Well, from 2016 to 2020, it was slow as molasses. I was like, what am I doing here? It doesn't make sense anymore. I'm spending so much time, and I stopped enjoying it. If I still enjoyed it, then I would continue. But it was a conversation I imagine my kids having. Penny was just born. I think it was the end of 2020, and I just was like, I wonder what's going through their mind, because it is a circus. And so I did my newborn and my 2-year-old, and I just acted like both of them, talking about the mayhem that they were going to cause that day. And that went viral. And Shay Mitchell, if you know her, she's big on Instagram. She shared my video on Instagram stories, and so then I just thought, well, maybe I was kind of doing different stuff at the time. So then I kind of stuck with that and veered off from that, doing different series. And it just kind of, it depends, because it'll go really quickly, and then it'll peter out. And I know some content creators get really down about that. I'm like, it's summer. You're not going to grow during the summer. This is time to get weird. Just post whatever you want. It's fun. Just have fun with it. So it was super slow, and then it sped up pretty quickly.
Have you considered joining the worship team?
The worship team? The singing team? They're so good. They're so good. I don't know if I... Thank you. They're so I mean, I would be completely honored, but they're so good. I feel like I don't know if I would be able to keep up. But I do stand where there's the pathway. That's where we stand for singing because I need to like belt it, and I'm so afraid to do it in someone else's ear. If we can't get that area, that balcony area, I'm singing like this because I just don't want to get it in their ear. Because it feels so good to sing so loud. But thanks. Yes.
At what age, or have you thought about what age you'll allow your children to have social media?
Yes, I have. I'm an overthinker, if you guys haven't picked up on that. I've thought a lot about it, and never, if I had the choice. But they're both such creative little human beings that I feel like they'd really enjoy it. I think we'll get them a Nokia brick when they're in sports and they need to be able to communicate with us for pickup. But I talked with my husband. We have some time, maybe when I got social media when I was 18 and shouldn't have. But I think that they can have social media when they're 18, but that gives me all this time to provide them information and the knowledge that I've gained through it. And I need to tell them it doesn't matter what the trend is. It doesn't matter what the song might be, because there are a lot of really horrible songs out there that are trending. I want to teach them the way to do it, that we're going to use it for good rather than evil, that, if you're going to do this, you can have fun, but we're going to stay positive and we're going to be good representations of Jesus. So I don't know, but definitely not anytime soon. And I don't care what they say. If it's not cool, I don't care, because I know what it's like. So yeah, I don't know. 18 right now. Today it's 18. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, it bombed. What was my favorite video I ever made? And it's still my husband's favorite too. I was pregnant with my daughter. It was 2020, and I did. It was a love story between me and mint chocolate chip Breyers ice cream, and I did a whole skit. And Breyers did me dirty, and I caught mint chocolate chip cheating on me, and kicked him out. And it was a whole soap opera, and no one liked it. But it's still my favorite video. It took me like hours, and I had so much fun. I had so much fun doing that. That's one of my favorites. But I think in all honesty, I think my testimony to the miracle I received was my favorite, because it was heartfelt and it was important. But that has to, yeah. Two ends of the spectrum, two answers. Thank you.
One of the favorite things I saw you shared a couple times were your teachers using your Good Morning song. I saw just a couple clips, but just curious, did a lot of teachers and educators reach out and start using that in the school day?
Yes. So she asked about the cheer that I made up for my children, which is a cheer I was talking about when I was talking. So there were a lot of teachers that were using it, a lot of mothers that were, where'd you go? There you are. A lot of teachers that were using it, and mothers. I only used a few to reshare, because I don't like to share my children's faces, so I definitely don't want to share anyone else's. But yeah, there was a big influx of people using it. It just made me so happy, because this was just a cheer I made up for them, and what they don't know is I wasn't able to say it to myself. I am now. So it's a very important cheer to me, and to see it helping other kids, that's big for me.
Can you share the cheer?
Of course. Coming out on a sweatshirt this Friday, but I received requests. I'm like, let's do it again. People request it, and I'm like, here's what they want. So it goes, I start with, are you ready? And they go, yeah. By the way, they're starting to take over my role now. They know it so well. So you go, are you ready? And they go, yeah. Are we caring? Yeah. Are we kind? Yeah. Do we love all of our body and our mind? Yeah. Are we creative? Yeah. Are we courageous? Yeah. Is the love and light we show just so contagious? Yeah. And I go, are we going to have a good day? And they go, yeah. And then I chase them and I say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And they run away from me so they don't get kisses. But that's how they like it. Usually turns the mornings around if they're having I mean, sometimes my son, I say, are you ready? He goes, no. So, and then Penny leads us those days. Are there any other questions? Oh,
I wanted to thank you too. I've been very blessed by your content.
oh, thank you.
You shared recently about your doctor visit when you told them about your mom.
Yes.
I was wondering, having lost your own mother, how, like, if you have kind of mother figures in your life and how you navigate motherhood without them.
Thank you. She asked me, not having my mother, how I navigate that. And it's weird that I'm in the motherhood space. So when my son I was 4 or 5 months pregnant with my son in 2018 when my mom passed away. She had battled ovarian cancer for 7 years. She was an anomaly. She wasn't supposed to be around for that long. She was a beacon for me. She was the one that was like, just read your Bible at least once. She read through it, I think, 3 times. And I saw the change in her as well, which was always beautiful for me to reminisce on that. So losing my mom was hard. That was one of the things that I put in the brain box because I wanted to be happy for my son. I found out I was pregnant and then found out my mom was going on hospice care. Now, I'm so grateful that I was able to be with her during those months and care for her. But I don't think that I appropriately grieved her death. And when I had my daughter, it really brought up things that have happened to me in my past. How am I going to protect my daughter? How do I raise a daughter it's hard to mother without a mother. And I don't really know how I'm navigating it. I mean, I have wonderful people in my life. I have a stepmom, I have an aunt who sounds just like my mother, so sometimes when she calls me, I'm like, this is everything that's going on. And she's like, okay, she's so great. It's weird, because she sounds just like her. I have my mother-in-law, who's wonderful, and I just feel, I've been praying for a long time to just get strong women in my life to lift me up and support me, and so that I could do the same for them. So I am blessed in that regard, but you always kind of need your mom. It's always hard. There are certain things that only she would be able to answer for me. So I pray instead, and I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I miss her every day, but her voice is still in my head guiding me and telling me, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. I scoured the internet when it was like she was passing away, trying to figure out how to handle it, but just know, and I know she's in a good place. We actually had her celebration of life here at the Bible Chapel. I know she's great. I just miss her. But we talk about her a lot. Grangela. Her name was Angela. She wanted to be called Gran, so we call her Grangela. And the kids know about her. I show, Ollie has a picture of her. So, but it's difficult. And I'm sorry, you said you lost your mother as well?
No.
Okay. I just want everyone to hug onto their mom so tight, because even if you have a difficult relationship, that you can always get through that, I think.
Last call.
One more?
All right. Lindsay brought